Hello and welcome to another 30 Under 30 live chat. My name is Mark Spiegel. I'm here again, and I am a 30 Under 30 alum. I am the founder of Make Your Own Ball Day and a director of soccer on the south side of Indianapolis, and I'll be the moderator for today's discussion. Today's panel of 30 Under 30 participants will be discussing how to increase soccer IQ and mental toughness in the modern game. But before we get started and jump in with these questions, let's meet our panel. You guys want to go ahead and introduce yourselves. Megan, why don't you start?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Megan Monroy. I am the former graduate assistant coach at Regis University in Denver, Colorado. I just finished coaching out there for the past 3 seasons. Got my master's degree as well in organizational leadership, and it has been a great jumpstart to my career. Currently the national director for National Soccer Combine, which is a company that just tries to help players get recruited to different schools that see them at our events, but also still in the midst of looking for another collegiate coaching job. Hopefully one day get back into that game.
Sweet, thanks, Megan. And what about you, Michael? Why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Michael Supp. I'm from England originally. I'm currently at Ohio University in little old Athens, Ohio. Doing my PhD here in curriculum and instruction, and I'm also the assistant coordinator of the online master's degree in soccer coaching. Previous to that, I did my master's here on campus in coaching education a few years ago. I then worked for a club in New York City for a short period of time, and here back in Ohio.
There we go. Thanks, Michael. So we're excited about our discussion today. Actually, last week's discussion got a lot of great emails back. I was on the phone with some awesome people in Milwaukee talking about things we talked about last week. So please, as you watch today, definitely be tweeting us questions and reaching out to us. Use the hashtag NSCAA Live. We'd love to interact with you, and hopefully this conversation we're having between the three of us, we can incorporate some of your questions in. So yeah, we hope you enjoy. So first question, how are you teaching the game at the level that you're at in terms of soccer IQ? Michael, why don't you first take that?
Yeah, sure. So I'm not coaching a full-time in terms of a full-time commitment right now, but predominantly the age groups that I work with are the youth section. I'm a big advocate of teaching games for understanding model and approach for a couple of reasons. The first one being that unfortunately we still see quite a significant dropout rate in youth sports by the age of 13, about 70% the research suggests, which for me is somewhat frightening. And so when we look at some of the reasons why that's the case, well, fun and enjoyment are one of the biggest reasons why kids stop playing, because they lose that incentive to play, as well as an overly competitive nature. So for me, I really believe that we need to flip the model in very technical orientated to a games-based approach. And again, what comes with that is now we're taking a more holistic look at developing players, but with that primary focus of inspiring that love of wanting to play the game first. And I think that then has a knock-on effect in terms of soccer IQ, because now we're using the game to educate the players rather than isolated segments of technique, which I don't think helps their soccer IQ to the level that it could be. So that's certainly a way in which I advocate working with youth players currently.
Great. Michael, could you touch a little bit more? I love that teaching games for understanding approach. So could you give us a specific example of, say I'm working with a younger kid and I want them to master the ball. What sort of games are you saying that we have our kids do so that skill comes out?
Yeah, for sure. So I think traditionally what we would do in terms of ball mastery is a lot of isolated drill type stuff. So what it's doing is it's again focused on that ball mastery as a component, but can we create that in a game-like environment, in a game-like situation. So could it be as simple as a 1 versus 1 or a 2 versus 2, in which there's still multiple repetition and exposure to the ball, but now there's a game context to it, which I think is so important, again, to further that understanding of not just the skill component, but where does it apply, when would I use it, how would I use it, depending on what the picture is. So I think when we can do that, again, it just contributes to developing the overall IQ of a player, rather than just this one single sort of technical part. So certainly using ball mastery, for example, a 1v1, 2v1, 1v2 game, whatever it may be, but a small-sided version of the game in which the goals may be to dribble the ball through a certain space, or they have to try and attempt to beat a player before they can finish. So now we're using the game itself to educate, which I think is crucial for younger players.
Great, Michael. I love that you're taking that stat of 70% dropout and looking at the reasons why and that fun and enjoyment. And you say, young kids, they want to play, so let's get them in a situation where they're playing. And the thing I love about coaching is, someone listening in might be like, well, tactics or specifically the technique rather than tactics. Technique at a young age is so important. So they might not adopt what you're doing completely. Maybe they try a whole approach where you play the game, then you go small and do the technique, and then you go back to the game. But there's a lot of different ways that we can connect with our young kids, and yeah, I really like what you're saying there. Megan, you want to jump in, kind of with your college level experience?
Yeah, so most times you would think that the love of the game is there. That's why they're still continuing to play in college. And so hopefully that's not something that you need to fully be embracing with your student athletes. But, for some of them, they kind of lose the love, and they lose that ability to want to keep playing, and you have to help them find it. And sometimes that's through different soccer IQ awareness, whether it's watching games, whether it is spending some extra time with them. Players lose the love because they're struggling with something, and it's just kind of taking the time to spend a little extra time with them after training. With our kids, we practice in the morning, and then they go to class right after. Some of them don't have class for another hour or two, so we'll just spend a little extra time, whether it's technically, whether it's tactically, and just go through repetitions with them to help them increase their soccer IQ and hopefully help them remember why they love the game and why they love to play it.
So I love what you guys are both saying. Like, there is a correlation and a connect between loving the game and knowing the game, learning the game, developing that soccer intelligence or that smart player. Can you talk, Megan, a little bit more about in terms of watching the game? How do you watch the game with a player in order to increase their kind of soccer IQ?
So that's kind of a tough one, especially with college kids, because there's so much going on in their lives. They're not just playing soccer. They're going to class. They're in study groups. They're so many other things going on in their life. So for us, you basically just kind of give them the tools. We will absolutely offer video to them as often as they want. Whether they want to come into the office once a week, twice a week, every single day. We'll put the time in if that's what they want to do. So with that being said, we'll sit there and let them watch themselves, so they can learn from the mistakes they're making and from the successes that they're making. It's not just about what you're doing wrong. It's, well, you're doing this right as well. Keep doing this and take notice that you're doing this well. But here's something that you struggled with, and maybe this is how you fix it. We tell our kids all the time, watch more soccer, watch whatever league it is, just to see the professionals do it, and take notice, like how they're doing things, what they're doing to make them successful, and just really think about it. Well, you're not being successful with this, but this player is. What are they doing differently? So it's a big piece with just watching the game and observing, and then having a conversation about it, whether it's with your coach, whether it's with another player who is a soccer nut on your team, who watches soccer 24/7, to have those conversations. Be like, well, what are they doing that I'm not? Or, maybe if I do this because they are, it can help me figure this piece out. And that can be technical or tactical. So watching the game, I mean, really can help a lot. But again, you know, it's you provide the tools. It's what the players do with it, and what their drive is, and what they want to be moving forward, which basically will whether or not they actually go out and do it.
Yeah, I love that. I love that, Megan. And the thought of taking notice is what I specifically took from that. Of, you know, I coach 8s, 9s, and 10s on a club level. And if I told kids to go watch a game, you know, they might just watch the game and not learn anything. So if we can have them focus in, like you said, and take notice of, for us, we love to dribble. Can you take notice of every, you know, skill move you see? Take a tally, or which was your favorite? What happened at the end of it? And come back and tell me about it. Now they have taken notice, and then your second part was that conversation. Now we're talking about soccer, which is good for our kids. Yeah, I really like that. So let's move on to another question. What are the multiple ways you have players interact with soccer? And how do you use those ways to teach the game? Michael, you want to jump in on that one?
Yeah, for sure. I think it follows nicely from the points that Megan was making. Something that I love to do when working with younger players is again to incorporate as much video as possible. So, I mean, we all have access to an iPad or a smartphone or whatever it may be, and it's so simple to just have a short 45-second, 60-second clip that you can use in a couple of different ways. The first one might be, you know, the latest Messi goal, because he does it every weekend. But you might play that on a video to your kids before they go into a dribbling session, or before they go into a small-sided game, for example. So you've all of a sudden you've got a visual for them to relate to, and to inspire them. They've got something clear in their head that might trigger something in a game that they wouldn't think of without that visual cue there. So I think that's one way. Another way, again, using the same technology, is to actually record short segments of what's going on in practice. So again, we'll use our earlier example of you know, ball mastery or ball technique in a 1v1 game or a 2v1, whatever. It might be that you're there as a coach and you record that game for 30 seconds, whatever it may be, and then you bring the players back afterwards and you let them watch it. So it's almost like a live replay upon what they just did. So to be able to offer them that external perspective rather than just everything they see as an individual, well, now they can almost have live recorded feedback in the moment, and what better way? So I think that's a really cool way in which you can incorporate, again, technology, because it's out there in abundance, but simple technology that we all have access to develop, again, that bigger side, that holistical side to the players. The other one that I think is really, really useful, and it's so simple for coaches to do, is, of course, that we should all be doing session plans. I think a lot of us now have access to online sort of session planning resources. I use a tool called Sports Session Planner. And with that, what I can do is I can save it as a PDF file, and I'll email it to the entire team, including the parents, before the session. So now when kids and the parents as well, because it's important to keep them in the loop, are interested in what you're doing, well, here you go. You have my session plan. Like, this is what we're going to be working on tonight. So I think it's a good way of prepping kids for what they're going to be working on. So it already engages and stimulates thoughts of, oh, I'm going to be working on this tonight, so what might that include? So we're getting kids to think about the session before they've even got there, which I think is a really cool thing to be able to do, again, to optimize the minimal time that we often have when we're working with kids. So I think those are two ways in which we can incorporate technology, and some fairly simple technology to again enhance that overall IQ of a player, but by offering different ways of seeing the game and learning from the game.
Yeah, that visual component that sometimes we miss. Megan, what do you think on this topic? What are ways you're getting, maybe you got your college players to interact with the game outside of just normal training sessions?
Yeah, I actually have a little bit of what Michael talked about. We do video, like I said. and we use a technology called VidSwap that we record all of our games, we upload them all, but then we can also go through everything and take clips out. And we can make a highlight reel for a kid, whether it's every single time she touched the ball in a game, every goal she scored throughout the season, for our goalkeepers, every save you made or every goal that you got scored on, and make a highlight reel and send it to them, outside of the training environment where, you're just sitting in your room before you go to bed that night, or you're tired of studying, whatever it is, and just kind of take a look at yourself and see, hey, what are you doing well? What are you not doing well? It can be a highlight reel of confidence, that a kid's maybe a little down in the dumps, which we'll get into the mental piece a little later, and they just need to see themselves doing well. So it can be just strictly that. But a lot of ours is, again, technology-based. The head coach that I worked for, he loves technology and loves to be moving forward with things. So at training, we have another video camera that, just kind of like what Michael said, will videotape the players doing an activity. We will have the film go straight from the camera to the iPad, and we'll walk up to the kid and show them literally once they did it, and what they did well and what they're struggling with. So we're a lot of stuff online, and again, just the video piece. Some kids hate it and don't want to do it at all, and if they're really struggling with something, we make them come into the office and, it's take a look at yourself, just see maybe this can honestly help you. And if it does, great. If it doesn't, we kind of keep looking and find other ways to help them out. But the technology piece is very big in college soccer, just to help kids continue to kind of see how they're playing and what mistakes they're making, what successes they're having, and in order to go forward and keep being a better soccer player.
Great, thanks, Megan. And what, I hear you saying that we have to make different plans for different players. Some one kid might be visual, another kid might just want to try it over and over and over, and that's how they learn. I just want to add in, I work with the younger age groups. For soccer IQ, it sounds counterintuitive, but I love when our kids play basketball. We really push them to play other sports. I think having a sport background, I can tell when 8 or 9-year-old girls come in and have played basketball before. They understand their body a lot better than the girls around them. They understand the spatial awareness. They understand that if I fake right and go left, that's probably going to beat this defender. And we're just teaching them how to use their feet in that process. So one kind of counterintuitive thing is that multi-sport connection.
Mark, I think that's a huge advantage that this country has over many other countries. For example, back home in England, we're just solely driven by soccer for the most part.
Yeah.
But you're right, you're absolutely right. Over here, there's the exposure that kids get to basketball, to football, hockey, which really does offer this sort of fundamental grounding in basic tactics, if you will, of invasion sports, which again I think is something that this nation has as a huge advantage to it. So I think if you can really harness that, then it should certainly make for a hugely significant and positive impact in developing IQ, particularly for soccer.
Yeah, I like that, Michael. And the other thing is we, because it's so cold in Indianapolis and we only have a little bit of field time in our indoor, we're actually doing chalk talk with our 8, 9, and 10-year-olds. Yeah, it might look different than Megan's doing with her college kids, but we're talking about roles and responsibilities with an 8-year-old. At an 8-year-old's level, we're watching a game together and having a conversation. We're, planning out if the ball's on this side of the field, how do we rotate our defenders? We're not really shying away from that stuff, and we're trying to use, we only have 50 minutes in the indoor session when we usually go for 75 minutes. So we're taking that additional time to do chalk talk. So you got to be flexible and kind of get creative, I guess. All right, I'm loving this, loving it. All right, we had a run through yesterday, and the three of us got into this really great conversation about elite level, rec level. Where is my passion for coaching? What's my goal in coaching? How do I want to make a difference, and where do I want to make a difference? and I can't be all places at once. So how do I choose that as a young coach? Michael, I know you're super passionate about this and kind of in between all of that. Why don't you dive in first with that big, huge topic?
Yeah, of course. I try not to go on too long about it. Yeah, quite simply, I think it's a hugely significant part of coach development. In the sense that when you expose yourself to so many different levels of the game, it can be such a steep and really important learning curve for coaches. So by that I mean being able to work with players at the elite level, sort of going towards the top end, but then equally, can you still coach players who have never kicked a ball before in their entire life? And I think when you can do that as a coach, all of a sudden the focus comes to being more of a communicator, more of a master communicator, which I think is something that is missing a lot in youth sports and in youth coaching. I think we're too heavy on the content of the sport when in a lot of occasions it's not entirely necessary. And I think if we can develop our own ways of communicating with different groups of people, well, now I think all of a sudden you've got a body of coaches in this country who can really have such a huge influence on development. And I think one of the problems is much like if you think about our education system, the higher up the ladder we go, then the more sort of pigeonholed into a specific area we sort of filter into. And I don't necessarily agree with that. I sort of have some philosophical issues with that. I think it's great for a coach to be able to work at a variety of levels. For me, that's sort of the definition of a master coach is being able to work with individuals and groups and develop them appropriately, no matter where on the spectrum of recreation to elite that they are. And again, I think if there's that slight shift towards maybe that mentality, I think the impact on youth development in this country could be hugely significant. So that's my 2 cents on the issue. Great.
Megan, you wanna jump in on that? You're kind of transitioning from college to who knows where. What are you thinking?
I am kind of like what Michael just said. I completely agree with the ability to coach at different levels really is a mastery of coaching. And just to kind of go off of that, at NSCA convention, I watched Laura Harvey do a defending topic with a youth girls team. And they were a little bit older, but even still, like, her ability to kind of talk to them and coach them, even though it was kind of like a rec session, so to speak, was amazing. The language that she used to talk to them, which, I mean, I'm sure the way she coaches her Seattle Reign team is a little bit different, but just her ability to talk to them and get them to do what she wants, was absolutely amazing to watch. She did a really nice job. I'm slightly transitioning to the rec league a little bit. And I'm a little nervous for myself because me personally, I'm a very competitive person. So I'm all for the elite level, and whether my team's the best or not, I'm all about pushing kids to be the best that they can be, because I had that throughout my career. Now that's not to say that even at a rec league you can't push kids to be the best that they can be and to improve their skills. So I mean, I think it's a fine line in the way that you teach and coach, but I think you can still kind of expect the same things from both athletes, whether you coach elite or whether you coach rec. Great.
Totally agree, and yeah, love it. So we're getting some great questions coming in. So we're going to jump to one of those. We had someone write in, what specific, so I love this, as a coach I'm always looking for specifics, what specific training activities do you use to develop soccer IQ? And it also goes on to mental toughness. And they're actually asking at a college age or for older players. So we're looking at soccer IQ at the older level. Megan, you wanna touch on that?
Sure. I think it really just kind of depends on your team. What are you struggling with? What are you trying to teach and increase the soccer IQ of? Which I think that is what will make dependent on what specific drills you're kind of doing for your team. If you're struggling with playing the ball wide, you want to repetition, whether it's pattern play, whether it's playing 11v11 but one team is literally standing in their positions while the other team is moving the ball around them, and letting the team run through it once. If they did it completely wrong from what you want, okay, stop them, teach it, talk about it, let them ask questions, run it through again, see what changes got made. If they were better, stop it again, discuss it again, run it through a third time. Keep doing it as often as you need to, until they understand it fully. I don't think, and me personally, I think you can take an entire practice just to teach something in regards to soccer IQ. With the college game, the way the weeks go, a lot of times that would be a Wednesday practice. That's kind of your really teaching day for what went wrong the week before as a team. For us personally, that's how we did it. What do we need to prepare for this week? And that day is really a teaching day of what are we working on, what's our main focus, and if it's not going well, stop, discuss it, talk about it, ask questions. No question is a dumb question in that sense, and help them learn, help the players learn. They can't be successful if they're not learning even in the middle of a practice.
Great. Thanks, Megan. Michael, you wanna jump in on that?
Yeah, sure. I think just very quickly, sticking with my allegiance to a games approach. Something that I really enjoy doing, and something more importantly that I think players really enjoy doing as well, is maybe using scenarios within a game to teach those components. So it might be as simple as you've had a player sent off, you're down to 10 players, you're 10 versus 11, you're winning the game 1-0, there's 10 minutes left on the clock. So now all of a sudden you're using the game, but now there is this tactical side based upon a situation that is likely to occur, and it always happens in games. I think it's fascinating how many times you see teams panic, particularly at the youth level or even at the college level. I've seen where they just fall apart when they've lost a player. But that happens, right? That's a reality. So we're a goal up. So are we going to go and press all over the field, or are we maybe going to be a bit more conservative and we'll be compact, we'll drop deep, or maybe only press when the other team gets over the halfway line? Then once they get that idea, and if that can be an organic idea, that's great. But then as a coach, that's when you might step in and say, right, I recognize that as a team you're going to drop off, great, but you might then go in to fix one or two minor things. So it might be the body shape of the forward as they go and press the centre back, or it might be the distances between your lines of defenders and midfielders. So I think that's a great way to approach it, again, by using the game to really engage players, by using something that's so specific to what actually happens when they go play a game at the weekend. And use that as your fuel to then go and really do some good teaching, some good coaching in terms of developing the IQ on an individual level, but then also the team level as well.
Great. Yeah, I love that, and yeah, I like the specifics of pattern play, of scenario training. For me, I love to announce the topic at the start of the day. Hey, we're working on dribbling to keep possession. And that's the coaching points that we're going to make the whole day. We're going to be, everything we do will be about dribbling and possession, and the coaches will have their coaching points that they're going to hit on, and we're going to coach as an entire group, and we're going to coach each individual kid and try and get them to understand why and what and when and how to do that. So it's like you said, Michael, becoming that master communicator. Can we get them to understand what we want them to know? Do you agree, I love this, do you agree that having older players coach or mentor younger players helps create better IQ for both parties? I have a feeling, Michael, you're going to have some fun things to say about that.
That's a great question. That's a truly wonderful question. I think the first thing that jumps out to me in that respect is it's like siblings. I think we learn so much from our siblings that we take for granted in terms of, again, a natural or an organic process of learning whatever it is it may be. So yeah, I mean, in terms of soccer, I absolutely see the value in having older players work with younger players in that respect. Maybe not necessarily because their content is going to be 100% accurate. You know, they've got every coaching point right and every coaching detail right. But I think that it's a huge value to that younger player to work with someone who they can foresee themselves being like, right? So that's why I think I always struggled with having teachers in school that were a lot older than me and didn't sound like me and didn't like the things I liked. But I think now if you can offer that to a young player, you know, someone that they can sort of see themselves being when they're 3, 4, 5, 6 years old or whatever it may be, I absolutely see the sort of sociological and psychological value to trying to do that process. I mean, what a great idea that is.
Great. Megan, what do you think about that?
I really couldn't agree more with what Michael just said. In that, you know, when you have a younger player, it does give you somebody to look up to and want to be like them and go to their games, you know, whether it's a high school game, whether it's a college game, and it increases their soccer IQ by watching them play. And not only that, but then seeing the other players that they play with. You know, they may not be the elite player on their team, but maybe there's somebody on that team that is elite. So they're going to watch one player, but they get exposed to so many more, which is a great learning tool for a younger player. And for the older player, I think it's great too, you know, to see they think something at a certain age is so easy to do, and as they watch a younger player do it, they have to learn to teach them how to do it. You know, it's something that you can do easily because you've been practicing and doing it for years. And now you have a younger player who's just learning and just getting to that step. And, you know, how do you break it down for them? And it just teaches you to, well, how do you break things down for yourself then when you're struggling with something that's, you know, a little bit more advanced, but, you know, it makes you break it down to the smaller steps. So I think it's incredibly important for older players to coach younger players. I'm not going to say it's necessary, but I think you know, it's important and it's a great experience for everyone involved.
Great. Yeah, I agree with what you guys are saying. I will add one little caveat to say that as older coaches, some of us are directors in our clubs. If we have, you know, I've had seniors in high school say, hey, we want to help out in the academy with the 8s, 9s, and 10s. And we do what we try to do a good job of supporting them in that we don't just throw them in and say, hey, you take this, you know, this U13 team because we don't have anyone else, and then we don't support them, and then it's a bad kind of experience for both parties. Right. You know, one specific kid, Max, who hated soccer at the time, he was burnt out and all the things about the 70% dropout rate that happened to him. And he actually fell back in love with the game through working with our young kids, and he actually understood the game better because he was having to, like Megan's saying, look at it in the smaller ways and be able to teach it, caused him to think about the game kind of in a way he never had. So I think this would be a great job for you guys to get a little love for your mentors and kind of encourage maybe the coaches out there that don't have a mentor. Hey, can you guys find someone locally that, you know, we should be continuing to learn and grow as coaches? Michael, why don't you give a little shout out first?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's endless mentors, and there's mentors that you don't even realize have had a profound influence and impact on you throughout this journey, throughout the coaching journey. But I think, you know, one of the biggest influences for me in my short-term history has been through this program, has been through the 30 under 30. Mr. Brian Tompkins out of Yale University, who was a former head coach there for the men's team. He's been incredible, and I think the best thing about our dialogue has been that we haven't really talked that much about the X's and O's of soccer, which again I think is so crucial for people that are truly invested and keen to work with younger players, with young people. So yeah, the role of a mentor is massive. I would encourage any coach to seek one out, and you can have multiple mentors as well. I have several people that I rely on heavily when it comes to coaching and what to do next, and ideas and thoughts, and just someone to get something off your chest with is so valuable when you're really engaged in this. So yeah, 100%. It's such an incredible value to any coach at any age. I'll add, it's not just for young coaches. It's for everyone.
Great, great. Megan, what about you?
I've been incredibly fortunate just with my college career, and now in the 30 under 30, with being able to have very good mentors. I played collegiately at Penn State, so Erica Walsh has been a huge mentor for me as a player and now as a coach, with just being able to go to her for questions about whatever it is, whether it's stuff on the field, off the field, and not just her, but even her assistant coaches, that when I was at Penn State, that were on her staff at the time, and Michael Cole and Ann Cook, who's still currently with her, that, they both, anything I ever need, just calling them up and asking them, they're always there for me, which is fantastic. And then my mentor with the 30 under 30 is Marsha McDermott, who's the head coach at Army. And just like Michael, I don't know if we've once talked soccer with X's and O's. Everything has always been off the field and culture within a team, and how do I make myself better? How do I get the girls to believe in our head coach? What do I do to help him in creating a better relationship between everybody? And it's been great. And again, I agree with Michael. You're never too old or too young to have a mentor, because you're always going to have questions, and always having somebody to go to is what every coach needs, whether you're new to the sport, whether you've been in it for 20, 30, 40 years. You always have questions, and you always need somebody to help you out and at least point you in the direction. I don't think Marsha's ever given me an answer. She just points me in the directions of figuring it out on my own, which is great. She doesn't make it easy on me, and that's what you want in a mentor.
That's a sign. That's a sign of a great mentor, isn't it? When you come to them with a question, and they respond to your question with another question.
Exactly.
So, yeah, it goes deep. It goes deep. But it's such a great and wonderful part of being in this industry, in this profession, is that, and the relationships that you build and develop with people that go so far and beyond the game itself. So.
Absolutely.
Great. As we transition, we're gonna talk a little bit about the mental part of the game. But real quick about soccer IQ. So I used to be assistant varsity coach back in Kansas City for the coach I grew up playing for, Coach Richardson, who taught me the game and made me fall in love with the game. And what we saw was these kids at older ages have all this athletic ability, and they don't have technique, and they're dumb soccer players, and that's why I coach at the 8, 9, and 10-year-old level, and that's why I say it's the most important part of the club, and where we should put the majority of our effort to build a club is at that 8, 9, and 10-year-old level. Because if you can teach smart, technical players, man, the tactics that you can do at older ages is really great. But you can teach the game and teach a flatback four and how to bloom and how to work within this formation, but if your technical deficiencies overwhelm you, you're not going to be able to really do anything. So as we talk about soccer IQ, let's start that at the younger levels and match that with technique that allows them to do the things we're teaching them on the field. I'm super passionate about that, and so if you are working with the younger ages, let's not back off of that. Let's dig in deep. All right, we've all had this player. I have a player at my club. She is maybe the best player her age in the state, and just gifted. But she just can't get out of her way in terms of her head. Her mental game is just, she takes herself out of game. She's not really, how do we break through with that, I don't know a better word, a head case player that it's the attitude or their mental game that just destroys them. Let's jump to you, Megan.
I personally love myself a mental head case, if that's the term we're going to use for now. Mostly
Megan, that is really weird.
But it's more just because you really get to develop relationships with those players. And at the college level, at Regis, I did all of our fitness. We didn't have a strength and conditioning coach, so it came down to the role of the assistant coaches. And I did all of our running fitness. So kids in college hate fitness, some of them, and most times it's because it's a mental block that they just struggle with it, and they can't get out of their own way. So I enjoy it because it gives me the opportunity to sit down with them, figure out, like, why do you think you can't do it, and create and build a very big and strong relationship. I have had players that have, we've had the conversation and kept going and going to the point where they were in tears because they know they're holding themselves back and they don't want to anymore. So it's just really like finding the root cause of what is the issue stemming from. And it requires them to open up, and sometimes they're not ready to open up right away, and it's just conversation after conversation and them continuing to struggle mentally until finally they get to that point that they realize you are invested in them and you want to help them and you want to help them find success no matter what part of their game that is in. And again, like, my favorite part of coaching is the relationships that I get to have with players, and being able to really delve in deep with them and get to know their history, because most times when you're recruiting a player, you know them for anywhere from 1 to 3 years. If you're Division I, 4 or 5 maybe. But you don't really know their full history about where they come from and the things that they've gone through in their life. So sometimes that's what you get to as the root causes, and you're able to help them overcome these issues that they have. So I enjoy it.
Love it, love it. Yeah, I love what you said about building relationships, finding out the core issue, and that relational approach. Yeah, there's no wonder that Megan's one of the top coaches kind of coming up in the soccer ranks. Yeah. Michael, what you got, man?
What do I got?
What do you got?
So, Megan said a lot of great things, and I firmly believe that that's so deeply rooted in relationships with players. I also think that there's another side to that. It's fascinating for me why fitness is such a terrible thing for players as they get older. I think one of the issues that we still have, from bringing it back down to the youth, because it's all related, is that we still use fitness as a form of punishment. And I think that's such a fundamental in a lot of this. And I think that needs to change. That's another discussion anyway. In terms of mental toughness, if we look at, again, some of the research, there's a gentleman called Peter Clough, I believe, out of Manchester University, and he terms mental toughness, he breaks it down into 4 C's. Those are challenge, commitment, control, and confidence. And I think if we can use those and maybe apply it to a player that's a head case, then maybe we can identify maybe one of those areas that they're particularly struggling with. So if we take, for example, challenge, I think was the first one I said, it might be that me as a coach, what I'm doing isn't challenging enough, or it might be over challenging. So I think if we can apply that in sort of a pragmatic way, it gives us a bit of a model to use to look at players who we define as maybe being mentally or falling short mentally. As you said, Megan, there's reasons. It's not just out of nothing. There's reasons. So I think if we seek tools that allow us to identify what those are, then yeah, we have a good chance as coaches of doing our job and helping them through that. So yeah.
Michael, can you repeat those 4 C's for us?
Yeah, it's challenge, control, confidence, and commitment. Commitment are the 4. And there's a bit of research out from Mr. Clough. I think you can just throw his name into Google and he'll come up with a few nice reads on those and how they apply to youth sports in particular.
Great. So, Megan touched on, like, what's going on with the player, what's at the core of their frustration, why are they having this, and then I like how, Michael, you were looking at, as a coach, what am I doing to cause this? And a lot of times we just look at the player and be like,
absolutely,
why is this player doing this? Like, it's working for everyone else. So looking at those 4 C's would be really great. I'm reading a great book right now by Brene Brown, Daring Greatly, and it talks about shame and that perfection. I was a perfectionist, recovering perfectionist, and I think a lot of our players in the clubs, especially the kind of affluent clubs that we're at, struggle with this pressure, this perfection. Michael, would you touch on that book Mindset that Carol Dweck wrote, and kind of, how can we use what she's found out to help with that mental part of the game?
Yeah, for sure. It's been a couple of years since I last read it, but essentially, what I believe Dweck is talking about is this idea of a fixed mindset versus a growth mindset, and what do those mean? So in terms of a fixed mindset, it's someone with a mentality that's somewhat stagnant, that's somewhat resistant to a form of challenge, something that makes them uncomfortable. They can either do it or they can't. In opposite to that, we have the growth mindset, which is someone that looks upon a challenge as an opportunity, and I think as an opportunity to learn. And I think if we take sort of the fundamental idea that Dweck is taking from that and apply that to coaching, is this idea of praising effort as opposed to praising ability. And so what are the implications of that? Well, if we're praising effort, then in a game it might be the idea that the player has tried something and it was a really great idea to try, but maybe it was their technical execution that let them down. So rather than negatively commenting on that execution, can we maybe praise the effort of the idea in the first place? And then by doing that, we're encouraging them to try again, right? And that's sort of what we want from a growth mindset. So I think it's being aware of just those fundamental ideas, I think, can play a huge role in terms of mental toughness, and how as coaches, through, again, our communication and through language, we can try to develop what Dweck would call a growth mindset in our athletes, which I think is, again, a huge thing to be able to do.
Great. Yeah, Michael, I love it. And, at the club I coach at, we every day we meet as coaches before the training session, and we say, hey, remember, praise effort and attitude. Effort and attitude. And we say things like, hey, you've been focused and working really hard on that double scissors, and I'm seeing you get better at it. So we're reinforcing that thought of, if you work hard in sports and stay focused, you can get better, rather than, Eli's the best, I'm on the second team, I will never be as good as Eli.
Yeah, I think you make a great point as well. Kids aren't stupid at the same time, right? So we have to be careful as coaches not to overuse that idea of praise and effort to the point where it becomes patronizing, because we see that as well. So it's being mindful of that. And I think, like you said, it's praising effort, but then give reason as well. Like give some information as to why you're praising that effort as a coach, not just a case of, saying good job or great idea. No, like give some specifics and don't overuse it, which I think is a trap that a lot of times we can fall into, which then of course loses its effect. But yeah, you make a great point with that, Mark.
All right, great. We are out of time. So we are going to wrap things up. Thank you to our panel. We're going to throw it to you guys for any more bits of wisdom or things that you just didn't get out, or you might just give a shout out to someone at home. Megan, you want to say goodbye to our listeners?
I'm not quite sure if I have any other wisdom to impose. But I believe that we got originally sent out our Twitter handles. So mine is literally my name, @Megan Monroy. If anybody has any questions ever, feel free to shout them out at me. I'd love to help out in any way that I can. I'm growing just as much as everybody else is, and if I can't help you with something, I'd love to help you find somebody that can. And I just appreciate everybody tuning in and listening to us talk. Hopefully we were a little bit helpful, and you guys enjoyed it. So thank you. I really appreciate it, and I'm just glad to be a part of this.
Great. Thanks, Megan. Michael, you want to give last words?
Sure, yeah, real brief. Just to second what Megan said, again, I think our Twitter handles are out there, and I really hope that if anyone has any questions or any feedback based upon what we've said here, anything people agree with, disagree with, essentially we're all in this together. So it's really important for us to remember that. So yeah, again, any sort of feedback, questions, follow-up conversations, both Megan and I are more than happy to and willing to have those with people. And again, just thank you to the NSCAA for the opportunity, and this experience this year has been truly wonderful, and a massive part of our development as coaches.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you for that opportunity.
And thank you, Mark.
And thank you, Mark, of course. How can we forget?
Great. So on behalf of the NSCAA, we'd like to thank you guys for tuning in, and we'd like to remind you to start planning your summer coaching education now. Lots of great things going on. Check out the full master course schedule on the NSCAA website. So thanks again for tuning in. Keep coaching them up. Keep loving on kids, high-fiving, know their name, and just celebrate the heck out of them. We do what we celebrate. So if we celebrate kids, they're just going to play soccer. Yeah, love it. Thanks for joining in, and this is another 30 Under 30 live chat. Peace.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.